Well, let's take a look now at the power you have when you pay to play. This is Washington, after all. It's hard not to notice the power of lobbyists in this town. But with the economy still trying to keep its head above water, all you got to do is look around and see that we are living in a time where things have had to be cut. When the money isn't there, the projects funded by that money often go away as well. But there are some exceptions to this rule. So we wanted to take a look at some specific programs and talk about why some continue to move forward and some are dead on arrival. So first, there's Lockheed Martin, and more specifically, the F-35 program being developed for the Pentagon. The cost, as you see there, nearly $1 trillion to develop, purchase, and support this through 2050. Unfortunately, they're already more than $1 billion over the budget, and the government has agreed to cover $672 billion of that. Oops, mistake. And Lockheed Martin will cover the rest. And there's this project, a high-speed rail in California. The estimated cost ranges between $30 billion and $100 billion, depending on who you ask. And despite this project being in the works for years, as of now, it's still a train to nowhere. So why is one of these projects going forward and the other, well, being derailed? Well, I want to talk more about that with someone very familiar with the defense industry. Michael O'Brien, a former contractor for the Department of Defense, worked in Iraq. He also wrote the book America's Failure in Iraq. Michael, let's start with this example, this F-35, which, by the way, I think has been in the works since the 1990s. It was supposed to be up and ready and going by, I think, 2010. Now they're projecting it won't be doing anything at least until 2018. So that's still in the works. It's still happening. And then let's compare this to this high-speed rail, which would be a revenue generator, would help a whole lot of people out, and could be built for a fraction of the cost of the F-35. Now, certainly, in some ways, these are different ball games here, but there's two major projects. One's going forward and one's not. What do you think about that? Well, they are totally different. One is a quote defense program, and the other one is a strictly defense transportation program. The F-35, this might actually be the very same program that when there was the big fight going on in the 90s, Secretary of Defense at the time, Cheney, actually made a comment. I think it's the same program, but I'm not 100%, made a comment that he was going to have talk to the contracting officer and have the procurement canceled, which, of course, he has no right to do. Contracting officer cannot be told what to do by anybody, even the President of the United States, much less the Secretary of Defense. This particular contract is very likely what's called a cost-plus contract. Very technical weapon systems like the 35 are a cost-plus contract is one where competitors bid, the one that gets awarded the procurement is paid directly for all of the costs incurred for the development and the manufacture of the weapon system, plus their overhead and their profit. So if you win a contract like this, and I'm very sure this would be a cost-plus contract, as opposed to a firm fixed-price contract, where they win the procurement and the government says, we're going to pay X amount for each unit, and that's that. Well, they can't do it for something like this because technology and prices and the cost for making it change over time, right, from the time the contract's awarded until delivery of the first unit. The problem is that this thing is so expensive, very likely because, excuse me, because the Air Force has changed it so many times. All these change orders are jacking up the price. But when you think about why the Air Force and other units of the military have the ability to change and take as much time as they need, I think it's hard to deny that, at least in part, there is an aspect of lobbying involved. And I want to take a look here. We have some money that basically shows that muscle flexed by Lockheed Martin. Basically, this shows that since 1989, Lockheed Martin has spent more than $23 million on campaign financing. They've spent more than $125.5 million on lobbying, and they've also received more than $20 million in earmarks. Now, I know, Michael, this should not be shocking, but it still is. I mean, what do you think? No lobbyists, no dice? This is an example par excellence of the military-industrial complex, which I write about at length in my book. You just showed the numbers. Money talks. When a defense contractor spends that kind of money, they are buying votes. They are paying for politicians to vote in favor of this particular weapon system.
No matter how long it takes or how much it costs.
Oh. And the thing about it is, a moment ago I was talking a little bit in the details, in the weeds, so to speak, about the mechanism, the contract vehicle, a cost-plus contract. But you got to back up. Why is the aircraft being built at all? It doesn't matter what type of contract. Why is this aircraft being built? And now, of course, the proponents of the aircraft are going to say, we've got to have this weapon system. We've got to have it to fight, in the new millennium. Do we?
Right. The U.S. already has one of the most amazing air capabilities in the world. Is there
nobody can touch us
already?
No, but right now, I'm not an Air Force guy. I was an Army guy. But I would venture to say nobody could even come close to our capability in the air, probably for decades to come. Now, this weapon, I mean, you take a look at it there. It's beautiful. And if I was going to be a pilot of one of those, I'd be all for it. Let's build it. Let's build this thing. But does our country need it? And the thing is, I've on my website I've mentioned the Department of Defense. It needs to be called what it really is. It's the Department of War. It's the War Department. And a weapon system like this is really, and it's an offensive it gives us an offensive capability. And there's nothing wrong with having offensive capability. But what is the real need for this? And it's the military-industrial complex. It's the lobbyists, the money that you showed up on the screen a moment ago. And they are going, if they spend that kind of money for campaigns and for lobbying, they are going to get what they want.
But it's interesting, too, and maybe we've already answered this question because of the money, but it seems to me that there should be some competition. I mean, Lockheed will soon be the only company in the United States that builds fighter planes for the Pentagon. We live in the U.S. I mean, this is a very educated, a very innovative country with a lot of smart people. Why are there not 5 or 6 other defense contracting companies competing with Lockheed, saying, hey, we're actually going to get this done on time. We're actually not going to go over budget. That's not happening. No, because what happens is companies get bought out by other companies. The entire issue of no monopolies. You just said it. This is going to be it's looking towards being a monopoly for this particular type of product that the government buys. But the answer is the money, the money that you showed on the screen. Right. Money talks, and the politicians that are should be asking the same question that you're asking. Well, if they get money for their reelection campaign, it's hush money. They're not going to ask the question. Yeah, it's really interesting to me. And, of course, Lockheed Martin, just one of many companies. But it's really interesting that their sort of corporate motto is, we never forget who we're working for. And based on those commercials, you often think, oh, they're working for me, the taxpayer. They're working for the military. It seems perhaps, if what you say is true, that they're maybe working for the executives and those people that sit on their boards. Sadly, we're out of time. Michael O'Brien, author of America's Failure in Iraq. Thanks.